Well, here at the Fireside Tales, we're always trying to change the location of these tales, and I thought, what more interesting location than an outdoor shower? So that's where I'm going to be telling this story tonight. Now, we're going to go ahead and continue the story of Yin and Sing, and when we last left Yin and Sing, they had just escaped from the sorcerer Althazar, and were trying to find a new life for themselves. So, eventually they arrived in this forest and were walking down this trail. And the whole world seemed so beautiful to them. There were flowers all over the place, and they were yellow and red and purple and blue, and they came across this bumblebee that happened to fly by, and they went up and they began to pet it, and it seemed like a big old sheep to them that was yellow and had a black stripe. And at first the thing seemed pretty happy, then it started buzzing, and they moved away, and they laughed to each other as it flew off. They also saw this butterfly fly past, and for them it seemed almost like a mighty eagle soaring by with its big wings flapping. Well, Yin was very gentleman to Sing. He would put down his coat whenever he saw a puddle and allow her to step over it. And they went for some time until eventually they heard this loud screech. And they looked around and they heard the screech again. And they went over and they looked through the grass and they saw that this sparrow was attacking this cricket. And the cricket's, one of its antennas had already been broken apart, and one of its legs seemed injured. And so Yin and Sing decided what to do, and finally they got some cattails and ran out and scared away the sparrow. And the sparrow flew off, and the cricket revealed that its name was Chipper, and that for saving its life it would accompany them down through the forest trail. So anyways, Yin and Sing continued, and the cricket played a little song, and they danced to it as they went down the trail until eventually it became night. And so they set up a place to sleep, they used the grass as a sort of blanket, and they laid there gazing up at the stars, wondering at what magnificent things must be out there in the universe. And so these little creatures fell asleep with these great ideas in their heads, and these dreams and these stories. And the next morning, when they awoke, they saw that there were a bunch of little people surrounding them with spears, and they were wearing grass and leaves and nutshells, and these little people were riding on the top of frogs, and even the cricket chippers was surrounded by these little people. So anyways, Yin and Sing were led down a trail into the little people's home. And little people's homes were made out of the things that we big people lose. Things like top hats and buckets and boots and shoes. And anyways, they were led to King Pompadour. And King Pompadour looked down at them, and he began to quarrel with all the other wise men. And they quarreled for some time, it was quite a few hours, and Yin and Sing sat there listening to all this bickering, until finally the king decided that the best thing to do with Yin and Sing was to kill them. So they took them to this little stack of paper, and they put them down, and they were about to light the match and set them afire, when all at once this dark cloud formed in the sky, and the sun went out, and all the flowers began to wither, and all the plant life and vegetation, and all the insects began to die, and all the little people began to scurry away as this great dark cloud almost like came towards them with these big red eyes. And Yin and Sing wondered what it was, and they ran and hid with the king. Well, anyways, there was this little boy who had happened to be going to get some water from the river, and he had his little tiny nutshell to carry. And anyways, as it walked by, he let out a scream when he saw this dark creature, and the dark creature went down and swallowed him up in one gulp. Anyways, this dark creature began to walk off, and the King Pompadour, revealed to Yin and Sing what this creature was. It was known only as the darkness, and those who knew of it, they all thought it was something from either hell, or that it was actually fear itself. And the king said that the creature would come into their lands and eat up their souls, taking away their children. It would hear them singing and dancing, and be angry about their happiness, and want to destroy it. So Yin and Sing decided that they would destroy the creature, and in return the king agreed to let them live. So anyways, Yin and Sing walked through the forest until eventually they found the dark creature's cave. And Yin lit that match that was originally going to be used to kill them, and he walked down and he found the creature sound asleep. And so Yin and Sing began to talk amongst each other about how best it would be to get rid of the creature. And finally they hatched upon a scheme. Yin worked for hours at the back of the cave, and he put up some sticks, and he lit up a little fire. And the creature eventually smelled the smoke coming from the fire, and it looked around, and it saw all this shadow being cast of this big monstrous creature with these long claws. And Yin began to let out cries, and the echo of the cave made Yin seem much more terrible and powerful than he was. And the creature, it became afraid. It thought that there was a much more powerful and ancient creature in that cave than even it. So it made a run for it, and it was never seen from again in those parts. And Yin and Sing went back to the little people and told them that the creature had ran away forever. And a great parade was held in their honor, and there was dancing and feasting, and Yin and Sing themselves actually did a little dance, and Chippers began to play his little song, and Yin and Sing were allowed to live there for the rest of their days. And they had a little boot at the end of at the corner of the town where they lived. And so finally they had found happiness at last.